10 buildings? Okay, good. So this is a project in just outside of Toronto in Brampton, Ontario. It is on 10.22 acres of land. It is on one complete underground parking, which is 2 levels, 1,807 parking stalls, and on the surface is 120 parking stalls. The building in the front is a 15,000 square foot retail commercial. The tall building just to the left is a 257 unit multifamily purpose-built rental, with the first floor being a work environment, so it's actually 2-story units. And as you go back clockwise, the 2 buildings that look pretty well identical are 8-story also purpose-built rental. The 2 in the back, the tall one in the back is actually
Muy ocupado en Zoom. Por favor, en Zoom. Te hablo en media hora, por favor. Gracias. Te quiero mucho.
Media hora, listo. And it's hard to see the little guy that's more to the right. That is a 50,000 square feet of office. And then the 3 coming towards the front, those are all 106 unit purpose-built rentals, with 1 being dedicated to plus 55. Then the little guy in the middle is just under 6,000 square feet of, could be retail or a restaurant. And the intention of this project is to build it all at once and put in everything we've ever done in the Fortis technology in this one here. That is speed of construction, the fact that the entire site is digitally monitored from the utilities for the management system, fully energy efficient. That is not going to be net zero, but it will be close if we can incorporate enough solar in there. But the idea is to build this one here more cost effective to what's being built in the GTA area, fast as possible, then duplicate this product or similar products depending on the site all across Canada and the United States.
Okay. So that you want to build this development, right?
That's right. So this development's right. Yeah. And this development right now is just under $500 million US to build the entire building outright. And we have somebody who is willing to lend normal conventional lending. But when Joel came to us and said this program is something you got to see, and then we were looking to talk to you and Moshe about if even the potential is there for a product like this, and if it fits your wheelhouse for financing, and if so, how do I take the steps to get the financing on this product? This product is ready to go.
Okay, and what are the terms of the existing loan that they're offering?
I have more than one. One is 7% interest, and they'll amortize it up to 30 years. And it is 80% loan to value. So
okay,
that was the group I thought, because it's all cash on their side, that I would ask them to cash in to work with the program that you have. But I haven't said anything yet.
All right. And they're not talking about a construction loan then followed by a takeout loan. They're talking about a single loan.
Yeah, the plan is that they would give the loan to up to 30 years. We're still negotiating the term. Originally it was set for a tenor, so 10 years. But I told them we can't amortize for 10 years. So we're looking to move it to 30 years. And so far, that's the discussion.
Okay, structure. Okay, so they would provide the whole funds, or they're not? Or would they provide a line of credit that you draw down on against construction invoices, or is it just that they give you the funds and you're off to the races?
No. It's normal. It's normal construction loan through tranches based on performance. So monthly draw. But what I was going to do to them once I understand this program, if you guys are interested, because I did ask them, do they have cash or are they borrowing the money? And it's all cash. So if I understand this program and it's something you think is worth looking into and you are interested in helping out in, I would ask them to put all the money, from what I understand, over $100 million in a non-depleting account, and then follow that course of payments as opposed to them. So they're protected better than it would be on a job site, and I would get the fund much more cost effective.
So Robert, we explained to him and showed him the paperwork, that the PDFs and the website and everything. He's really wanting to know how that works, and he's really eager to understand the methods. If you can explain to him, and then of course to see if we can incorporate what he has with our program, and see if we can get something there.
Okay. Basically, here's the deal. Albion has over $340 billion of assets under management, mostly cash. Now, we're a bunch of engineers, and we have a bunch of people who have a lot of money, is the way it works. So if you can imagine the interest you can earn on, say, 8-10% on $300+ billion a month, you know, you're talking $1 billion or $2 billion, just general figures. So this cluster of assets, rather than being given away to foundations or being given away to charities and things like that, where you kind of lose control over it, and sometimes you find out that the funds are being spent in ways they weren't supposed to be, it's much easier to aggregate the funds, turn around and make deals with some very large financial entities, and negotiate for somewhat above average interest on deposits. You know, your retail banks may offer you 1% or something like that, but when you get above a certain size, you can negotiate. 8-10% is possible once you get into the hundreds of millions. All right. So what we do is we've assembled these funds over years. They are under our management. So we take the interest that comes off of them, taxes get paid, the owners of the funds take some money for their trouble, and then we're allowed to deploy those funds on an equity basis. Now, what you have then is, if you have someone who has, say, these lenders, suppose they come in with, say, we have them put, I don't know, put the amount of the loan, or even just 300 million out of the 500 into an account. It's non-depleting account. Typically what we do is you make it a sub-account. You put those under our management, but the funds can't go anywhere. They just sit there. We'll turn around and fund the entire project from the cash flow that we're generating. But we don't do it for nothing as far as that goes. I mean, you end up with some equity position in it. We generally take about 30%, but you get all the money for 30%. And we'll make sure that the other loan gets paid off, whatever interest charges and points and everything else, they get paid. In fact, they can get paid, you know, you can pay them whatever their interest rate is on a monthly basis, starting from the beginning. So they put the money in a bank. We lock it up, preferably as a sub-account under with Albion's name on it, but it can't be moved, can't be tapped. And then we'll turn around and fund the entire project. When everything's done, they get their money, they get their interest. You can pay them up. You know, you can adjust the interest and the payout so that they're very comfortable getting paid off early. They don't need to go 30 years. And then you have a 30% partner in the deal for 100% of the funds. As far as we're concerned, you know, that's it. You know, you guys run it. You're in charge of it. We don't want to sit there and cause any problems. We're just a silent partner, if you will, behind it. So you own 70-30 in exchange for all the money. It's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
But when you say for all the money, there's no payback on the money?
That's right. It's pure equity, no loans, no interest, nothing. When you're done construction, it's paid for as you go. So the loan company puts up what we would call the skin in the game, seed capital is the way to look at it. the terms of how it's structured on our end is such that you can't just show up with somebody who has nothing. It's too easy to have people throw things to the door when they haven't done any homework. You'd be surprised how many people come in with an envelope saying, "Oh, all I need is $5 billion, and I can build a spaceship and go to the next star," or something like that. The crazy things. And we'll say we're willing to give that a shot if you can show that you've convinced somebody else to put up $100 million or $200 million just on deposit. And it's kind of a due diligence thing, because if we don't really have to go terribly deep into all the details and spend hours going over your spreadsheets and estimations and project out the increasing costs because of inflation and supply chain issues and so forth, and validate things. All we need to do is, if some other lender is willing to do that, it makes it simpler on our end, because they don't put the money into a bank account and get paid for it and not risk their funds. Then essentially they've done the due diligence, because they're willing to put a couple $100 million or $400 million into a bank account for your project. At the same token, we also know that prices can climb, there could be issues and so forth. So if it's a $500 million budget and it turns out to be 527, well, okay, fine. We go another month or two and we provide another 527. So we pay the extra amount. So you end up with a partner who pays for everything. 30% we take, you own 70, no debt, nothing. And you run the program, you run the project. All right. So all we ask is, let us know if it burned down, or if there's any profits, send us our 30%, send a check. Thank you. Okay. Otherwise we'll stay out of your hair. Does that make sense?
It does. And the people who put the money in, or the original lending group, I guess, they get all their money back plus interest.
Yeah,
from day one.
We just return it. They put it into an account, kind of like a deposit. They could look at it as a CD for the duration of the project. They can put the money in. We recommend they pick an interest rate. If they want 12% interest or something, and we'll pay them 3% a quarter. So let's suppose they put just, 200 million for an easy number. Probably you want over half of the money. Preferably something like, you say, 80%, right? So they would put 400 million into a bank account. They would earn 1% a month. So they're getting $4 million a month. You do pay it quarterly, so every quarter they get $12 million. If we don't pay, they take the money, go home. Done. Nothing. Once they put the money in the account, 60 days after that, we'll start funding the project. On the tune of, we'll have about, 30, 40, $50 million a month coming in the door on average. We can adjust that. But on average, we can generate easily, say, 10% of the amount on deposit in a cash flow. All right? Simple as that. So the project gets built, and at the end of it, when you do the ribbon cutting, you turn around and you hand them their money back. And it never gets touched.
So if they put in 300 million, when we're building, we're getting money only on draws. So they'll start 10 million and 30 million as the project gets developed. You're saying that if they put 300 million in a bank account, they get 100% of the interest? Interest for the 300 million right from day one?
Yeah, we can start paying interest on it from day one, paid quarterly. So that makes it very economical for them, right? One, their money's not at risk. All right, there's no real liability. We do ask you put it in a sub account and with Albion as a signatory, but you can't take that kind of money. It just sits there. That way we know it's locked in. I can point to it. I can go talk to our assets under management side, and they go, okay, great, you do have it locked up. That's the way it kind of works. So we lock the money up. They get paid quarterly from day one on the interest rate that's agreed to. And the contract is such that if the project fails at any point, they take their money, go home. So their principal has no risk. and they're paid, whatever fair interest rate is. What were they charging you? They expect that. Okay, so pay them 8% to put the money in the bank, not put the principal at risk, and you pay them 8% annual. They get 2% a quarter from the get-go, which, of course, with time value money, that's worth actually more than what they would be expecting otherwise.
Yeah,
But they have to put all the cash in. They're not tranching it out. There's no draws or anything else like that. They put a deposit down in effect. Albion provides the draws. And in fact, what we do is we will set up a joint account with you. That is the project account. And every month we'll dump money into it. And it'll probably accumulate money faster than you can draw it down.
For sure, if you're doing 50 a month, I could not build that fast initially. The first 6 months is design and engineering. That's not 50.
That's right. So during the first 6 months, money starts accumulating in the account, and that allows us to levelize things because we're earning an interest rate over time. That's kind of a levelized cash flow. So we know that you're going to spend the time for engineering, getting final permits, talking to people about the sewer and water connections, making sure there's sufficient power to the location, so forth and so on. That can take 9 months potentially. So you do all of that. Meanwhile, the funds are accumulating, and it builds up a buffer. And then we just keep throwing it in there. And if we structure the numbers right, we just look at it. We look at what the cash flow is. You shouldn't have any issue, building out based on the monthly deposits that go into that account. So you just draw from the account. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to do two things. We're going to audit the books. Simple as that. We're going to pay attention to that. Two, we're going to send around, we're going to conduct tests. We're going to take samples of the concrete. We're going to take samples of the rebar. We're going to send our own inspectors around to make sure it's being built correctly. Part of the deal. So, it's that Reaganized idea of trust but verify, simple as that. So, and otherwise than that, we'll leave you to build it. The other side of it, though, is we can also have having been a bunch of, nerds, if you will, geeks, however you want to look at it, right? We have access to a few other bits of interesting technology. We know we can get a hold of a patented fastener that's designed for holding these kind of things together. When you had some issues with screwing together and so forth, sheet metal screws aren't as good as this other thing. So this is the patented fastener. We'd be happy to introduce that to the idea. It may improve your connectivities on things. The other thing is we have a substance that's non-toxic organic, but it prevents combustion below 3,000 degrees. So if you incorporate it into wallboard, for example, you can put a couch in front of the wall and light the couch on fire, but the house won't catch fire. So you incorporate that into construction. We have another organic, it's a kind of an organic polymer that if you spray it onto soil, it hardens into the equivalent of macadam in about 24 hours. And they use it. You're a pilot, what happens when you, military, how a lot of those big fields, there's a lot of dust that comes up. You've got dust running into the engines, and particularly you can get fog coming across the runway from the wind blowing fairly steeply. Well, we're using this product on the surface of the dry dirt that's out there between the runways, and there's no dust. Everything gets locked down, that kind of thing. It turns out, so you can use that. It becomes essentially also waterproof. So if you do require basements or particular underground parking, you incorporate it into the concrete that's around the underground structure, and the concrete becomes waterproof. So rebar doesn't rust anymore. There's any capillary action drawing the water into the concrete the way it normally does. As you know, rebar rusting over time is the biggest issue you run into with the longevity of concrete walls, right? Well, if you mix this stuff in when you pour it, the concrete doesn't allow passage of any liquid whatsoever. So it basically insulates the rebar. Next thing you know, you don't have rust issue. So the rebar now lasts instead of the wall lasting 50 years or 70 years, it lasts 200, maybe more. So those are the kind of additional little technologies we'll bring to the table and will allow you, if you want, to incorporate them.
For sure.
Little things like that, So that's the basic idea.
Robert, what if we bring 100 million from our side? Is that going to be enough, for example, to start something, to buy the land, or to start? What can have a guy that is interested in putting 100 million in the program to help Claudio?
You put 100 million in. Just figure the easy number is 10% a month net. All right. So you put the 100 million in, it's $10 million a month.
For the life of the money that stays in the bank account.
That's correct. So if you leave it there for 10 years, you get 10 million a month for 10 years.
Wouldn't that be better? Like, as much as I want to build as fast as possible, I know I'm not spending $50 million a month within the first 6 months easily. Not until the concrete gets going. And then I'm pretty sure I'll be having more than one crew on site to even come close to that.
Well, what you build your, whatever your graph you want to use is, a line graph, histogram, whatever else like that, do a monthly cash flow analysis, right? Mm-hmm. Integrate the cash flow over time and see what the minimum levelized amount is needed to meet that cash flow. So, you can accumulate stuff and then you have a deficit. Not unlike think of it like the shear and moment diagram on a beam, right? You got inflows that are a levelized amount, then you're going to extract it out. As long as you don't go negative, that'll tell you what the minimum dollar amount is you need in the account. You figure the funding starts 60 days after the funds are placed on deposit, maybe less, but you allow 60. Typically we'd start after about 30, but I just say 60 to make it safe, right? So you put the money on deposit and there you go. You've got a cash flow started. So the amount of money you put in for cash flow depends on how you need to extract it. So like I say, 500 million over how long is the construction period for this? 2 years? 2.5?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. I was hoping, because you said it was prefab kind of thing. So 3 years, 500 million over 3. Huh?
Yeah. The parkade is 780,000 square feet. That's the slow part.
Okay. So you have 3 years of construction. You're probably going to have, you're nominally going to use, like you say, you might only spend, 10 or 15 million, $20 million during the first 6 months, right? Something like that. But after that, you're going to start ramping up and it'll be increasing. So it may be only 200 million, or maybe 278 million. It just depends on how the numbers work out. You always want to round up if you can, obviously, so you have some additional capital. Also, depending upon who it is, if you have an individual who's going to put it in there, they're only going to get paid, so you pay them the interest the same way we talk, right? So you say you want to give them 12%, something like that, so they get 3% a quarter, that kind of thing.
How would I know which percent, like who dictates the rate of the interest rate?
You do.
Really?
You can negotiate. Now, the thing is, if you're getting 10% a month and you give them 1, that means 9's left over.
Got times, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the other part of it means that when the construction's complete, right? Suppose somebody put, argument's sake, half the money, 250 million, right? So there's 25 million a month coming out, which might actually be a number that will allow for construction over 3 years, right? So technically speaking, you'd be generating $750 million over 3 years, right? Plus